Welcome to Half-Ass Podcast. It's your boy Corn. Over here to my right or to my left, we have the creator, the proprietor, the editor, the end-all and be-all of not only Spadal, but Walter Paisley Cafe, Mr. Mark Platt. How's it going?
I'm doing well, Corn. Thanks for having me on again today. Hello, everybody out there in video watching land.
Uh, and then to the bottom, we have the one and only Smith. How's it going?
I'm definitely not the only Smith, but
The only
one that
Smith
looks
on
like it.
Half-Ass.
Yeah. I'm super excited to talk about Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah, this movie was something. I just watched it today, guys, and yeah, some of those images are burning my mind now. I'm traumatized. But Mark, we're gonna hand over to you to give to the viewers the actual synopsis of Cannibal Holocaust, and a little bit of the backstory. So, what exactly is Cannibal Holocaust, and why exactly was this movie banned?
All right. Well, Cannibal Holocaust is considered the most controversial film ever made because it was banned in possibly 50 countries. That number has not been confirmed, but if it is confirmed, it is a record for sure. The director, Ruggero Deodato, uh, he when he released the film in Milan, he was arrested on obscenity charges, and then he was charged with murder after people saw it because the deaths in the movie of the people were so convincing that he had to prove that the people weren't dead. But the problem was all the actors in the film were under contract not to make any public appearances for a year as a marketing ploy to give it more of a realistic sort of look about it. In fact, if you're already thinking of Blair Witch Project, guess where they got that idea from? The very first found footage film, Cannibal Holocaust. So, but in the film, it's about four renowned documentary film makers from the United States. They head to South America to do a film about indigenous tribes, and they're not seen for 2 months. So NYU, New York University, sends out a anthropology professor named Harold Monroe to see if they can be a rescue team or just find out what happened. So Monroe goes out to the South American jungle. He has a guide named Chaco with his assistant Miguel, and a series of events occurs where he had to use a Yakumo native to bargain for speaking with the Yakumo tribe in their village. And the Yakumo native was taken as prisoner, and he was traded off as a hostage to get more information about the tribes that were warring tribes in the what are they called, the Shatari and the Yomamamo. And so these were tribes that were never seen by white men, at least not by white men that have returned. So they end up getting further in to the jungle, saving some Yamamamo, and that gets them to the village. And the professor ends up seeing the film canisters of the missing crew, finds out that yes, indeed, they are all dead because the Yombamamo put up their bones and remains in a sort of shrine. And he ends up using a tape recorder to get the cans of film. Takes the film back to the United States, and a broadcasting company, a television company in America, wants to make a documentary broadcast. So they want the professor to be the host, and he says he thinks about it, and because he hadn't seen the footage, and then the rest of the film is about him watching the footage and then basically arguing with the broadcasting company that these films should not be televised. And that's about it.
Yeah, and then also in the end they were like, look, burn it, burn it all. That's the part that got me. I was like, damn, they like it's yeah. Look, man, this movie had it had it all, man. Like good and bad. like there were times in this movie where I felt like I didn't know where it was going. There were times where I knew exactly where the fuck it was going. Like it was. I see why this movie was banned, and I don't think I've ever watched a movie that was ever banned. So like this was my first experience of like watching something like that was like I wonder why like the mass public doesn't really know about this. I wouldn't say know about this movie, but hasn't watched this movie.
It was released in the United States.
20 minutes in, and I'm like, holy shit!
Yeah,
I see exactly why.
Yeah, in 1985, it was originally banned in the U.S. and it was, I think, it just had a limited release, and now people just know it from video releases, from VHS back in the day on up to DVD and Blu-ray.
Which is crazy to me. It's still crazy to me that people haven't dug this movie up. Kind of like what we did. Like we were like, hey, let's fucking review it, and then I went ahead and started watching, and I was like, good God Almighty, man, this movie is. It's but again, you got to credit the director too. Fuck, I already forgot his fucking name. How to say his name?
Deodato.
How you say? Oh yeah, You said Deodato? Yeah, Ruggero Deodato. Look, man, this guy he has a big set of balls, man, because to know that look, we're not gonna be able to release this to the public like every other movie can be released. He should have known that going into this, and the fact that he still made this, the fact that he still did it the way that he did, this is crazy. This is super duper crazy. So Smith, you recently saw the movie as well, right? Like you recently watched it again. What were your thoughts after watching it? Like, were you as I wouldn't say disgusted, but hey, what was your initial thought?
So my initial thought after, I think that's the third time I've watched it. Because
shit.
I remember I pirated it back in the day, and I had like half of it on my phone, but only the first 30 minutes worked. So I've seen the first 30 minutes of that movie several times, but not the whole thing through. I've only seen the whole thing through probably like 3 times. The shock value, I mean, like once you get past like knowing that it's actors and stuff, the only thing that really fucks with me is the animals. Like,
Yeah.
just seeing all their guts, like, it's tough to look at.
Yeah, that tortoise scene was fucking unbelievable, dude. Like I was like, because like at first I was like, oh, there's no way they're gonna, and then all of a sudden the head comes off, and then the leg, then they crack I was like, good God,
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, and then the monkey scene, really fucked with me because I thought it was gonna, you know what I mean, not to get too gruesome or anything like that. But I thought they were gonna go for like the head, and it ended up just going for like the top of like the crown. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ! Like they did not hold back at all in this fucking movie, and I saw exactly why the fuck this shit was banned. Storyline wise, though, was it consistent to you guys? Were you guys still? I know we didn't have that much emotional involvement with this movie, seemingly because we knew that the 4 people were pieces. We actually realized halfway through the movie that those 4 people that the 4 people for the documentary were kind of pieces of shit. So I guess that kind of dismissed our emotional grab for this movie. But were you guys still like in tune with the story, or were you guys just like, hey, I made it this far into this movie, might as well finish it? Mark, I'll start with you.
Well, I think the story really centers around the professor. Not that of course, the documentary film team were important to the film, and However, this is where the film now, mind you, things were a little different back then, but in some ways, I think the film tried to have some sort of moral bent to it. It doesn't look like much, but the documentary filmmakers in these films being seen without editing were revealed to do animal torturing and killing and harassing people and setting their village on fire and all these things just to get the film. And the professor, it was his struggle to see that this film not be made, because despite the horrific scenes in the film, he still had to push against the television executives to try to not have this be turned into a documentary, that it should just be destroyed and forgotten.
How do I word this? Should this be a movie that people could look back at? I mean, obviously, yes, the first ever found footage film. Um, Obviously, if it weren't for this movie, we wouldn't get some of the movies that we have today, and some of the ways and fashions that they do them today. But could you guys see this movie as being kind of like, hey, they ran so that we could walk, or they ran so that this generation now could walk, because they kind of took all the backlash for being like the over the top, gory this. Now again, like they used real animals and they really did kill these animals. Yeah, but at the end of the day, they tried to make a film that was unlike any other. Smith, I'll start with you. Do you feel like that this movie could have been like the gateway movie or a gateway film for this generation, or for the next generation after that?
This movie was probably the gateway for a lot of things, yeah. Because like you're talking about the found footage stuff, and it's good that we talked about Troll Hunter not that long ago, because they did at the end of their movie, they kind of did a Cannibal Holocaust thing. Like, well, it wasn't exactly the same. They're talking about how the Norwegian government hasn't said anything about trolls and stuff. As far as the gore goes, I mean, we're talking about gateways here, right? Like, they open a gate with gore, maybe, but I'd say it's been downhill from there, because like that stuff. I don't know who the special effects guy was. I don't know if you guys looked into it, but it was probably the best I've ever seen in terms of like human organs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and again, half of that you didn't even need special effects. Like, it was just like straight up carnage at that point, man.
Well, I noticed towards the end of the footage, when we're watching the four anthropologists, I guess, documentary makers, when the girl is getting torn apart, you can definitely tell it's a pig carcass. So just the way the ribs go down. So they were definitely using, like, because pigs are similar to humans, so I'm guessing that's what they did. Just gut a bunch of pigs and just throw their intestines all over the place.
Do you guys know if any actors had to get any like psychiatric fucking help after this movie?
I tried to watch a documentary about, it was an interview with Carl Gabriel York, who played Alan Yates, the lead filmmaker or the director. I didn't get through it all the way. So he has a lot of interesting stories, because it's like an hour long, and I just had a busy day today, so I managed not to be able to watch it all. So I have not heard anything about any trauma experienced by anyone in the film. That doesn't mean there isn't. It all depends. But also, to speak to the effects, the one thing about the effects was Deodato wanted to be very secretive about them, and was forced to show how the woman that was found impaled in the village was done, because it looked like it was just all out there. She was completely nude, and it looked like she was impaled with a pole. How do you hide that? But and he had to show that they used a bicycle seat, and she had a balsa wood piece in her mouth, and she was just really good at staying very, very still. Because if you recall, that shot was done for the camera was on her quite a while, and it
Yeah.
was kind of moving around and everything. So, I mean, all things considered, she did a really good job. So yeah.
So there was special effects added to it, or what they do with that? Like how exactly did that work? Did they
Well, it was all
like
practical effects.
okay?
Yeah, yeah. There was
'Cause-
nothing. Yeah, there was nothing. No CGI back then or anything like that. Yeah, it was just everything was practical effects. They just had to do everything with prosthetics and tricks like that. Like, here's a pole, bicycle seat, sit rigid with a pole in your mouth. We're gonna film
Holy
it.
shit.
Stay still. Yeah.
That's crazy because I mean you got to think. I mean this movie was made when like what exactly? Yeah, what exact year was this movie made?
It was
This
released
was
in 1980.
oh what year is it? Sorry, you went out. You froze out.
Oh, sorry, 1980.
80. Okay, okay. So, I mean, people didn't really go to therapy after filming stuff like this, did they back then? What was that a big thing back then? Like how it is now, where people are like, "Oh, I have to go to therapy." I had to, go to therapy after filming this movie and blah 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 whatever. Um, because I would assume, I wouldn't say like they all just went on about their day after filming this movie, but you got to think as an actor, and then another thing I wanted to know was were these actors actually were they the ones doing the killings with these animals as well? I mean, because that's just another layer added on top. I mean, you could go through this movie without the animal killings, and it still would be like a movie where I could totally still see why it was banned, like just because of all the stuff they had to do in terms of the movie, the props, pig organ, like that shit is crazy. This movie was nuts.
Mm.
Like it was a different level, man, a different level. And again, good and bad. And I wouldn't even say bad, but because the storytelling part kind of got wonky a little bit, I would probably say is probably one of the bad parts. But I mean, it was still consistent. It's not like they slowed it down. There weren't any parts where it's like, okay, get on with the movie, whatever. No, like every single scene was like, we're putting we're putting this motherfucker at like 11, like like that. Every single scene was 11, 11, 11. Like they did not hold anything back. What were some of you guys' favorite parts of this movie? Smith, I'll start with you.
Let's see. When the guy he put his boot back on, he got bit by a snake, and they cut his leg off. I don't know if I'm imagining this, but I think I was looking into that, and like that snake, that variety wasn't even a poisonous one. Like obviously they're not going to put a real poisonous snake in his boot, but it just makes me wonder if it was like the director's intention to like maybe these people have been out in the forest long enough and they just kind of snap, so they see him get bit and they just fucking rip this dude's leg off even though he's not really in danger. So yeah, just something to think about there.
Mark, what about you?
Well, I mean, the scene that I never forgot was the impaled woman in the village. The first time I saw this film, I knew next to nothing about it. When I saw the animal killings, I did not know how that could be fake. Of course, I found out that it wasn't. But even some of the scenes with the humans, like I said, the spectacular job that was done with the woman that was impaled. The guy that got his penis chopped off right in front of everybody.
Yeah.
How the fuck did they do that?
Yeah, that. Yeah.
A guy got his penis chopped off in the Green Inferno, but it wasn't up front like it was in Cannibal Holocaust. That was insane.
Yeah, my I guess my favorite scene would probably be if I had to pick a favorite scene of this movie. It just feels weird with me saying favorite scene in
Right.
Cannibal Holocaust. But if I had to pick one, I would probably say like the scene where old dude. So it was the professor and the other guy, right? When they're out there,
Uh,
and uh, they had to follow the dude to get to the village where he was. I guess where he kept hitting the woman in the head with the boulder or whatever, or with the boulder that he put the spikes in. Um, and then the old dude was gonna go save her, and he was like, "No, no, no! You know, you trying to get killed, whatever." But then once he finishes killing the woman, then they shoot the tribe member or whatever he is, and then they start chasing him, and he's like wounded, running towards the village, and then another really good scene too is which I think they kind of I think they copied this, not copied it, but I think they kind of reimagined it in Green Inferno, the movie, where um they kind of lured the people that village where he had old dude what's his name, Miguel or whatever his name was, and then the one guy that was tied by his neck, and then he had him stand in the middle. He took all his clothes off and stood in the middle, and then kind of like to gain their trust, and then they came up out the grass. I remember that scene, like that would probably be my favorite scene,
yeah.
just
Well,
because it was very strategic. I like that.
that really established that character as a badass because they popped up and shot poison darts at him. Now it was all at his feet, but that guy didn't
Yeah.
flinch. That was so great. Yeah, yeah, I'll agree with you on that. I was like, yeah, well, if anyone, Miguel is a badass.
And then he took like the stick and like just, oh man, yeah, I like that, man. That scene was pretty cool. That would probably be my favorite scene out of this movie. Um, Now let's get to the part because I do want to ask you guys about this because there's probably you guys probably have a lot in terms of this question. But if there was anything you guys could fix with this movie, what would it be? And so, Smith, I'll start with you.
I would say just the whole beginning is kind of shaky. There's some parts where you see the military just shooting people in the forest, and it's like, and they don't even touch base on that afterwards. Like, what the fuck
They
am I
don't.
watching this? And then some of the transitions between. So you start with your four anthropologists, or are they anthropologists? I think so.
No, they're just documentary filmmakers.
It's just regular old filmers.
Yeah.
All right, so you start with them, and then it kind of just jumps to the professor going in there, and it's just a little bit lost. It's like hazy in there. Like if they could just clean up the beginning, I think the rest of the movie is, you can't fuck with that too much. It's good to go.
Mark, what about you?
Well, this is a tough question because I mean the most questionable thing in the film for me is a bit of cultural insensitivity, and it's only based on the idea of there being cannibal tribes at all. Um, Whether or not I would change it, well, I don't know. All I can say is this is not a film. If somebody came to me and said, you're a movie guy, Mark, and you like horror films, what horror films should I begin with? I would not hand them Cannibal Holocaust, like, oh yeah, Cannibal Holocaust, start with that, hit the ground running. No, I think the film does require context. I mean, it's over 40 years old right now, but it's great for discussion. Culture has changed in the world these days, attitudes toward different cultures and things like that. But of course, I don't think the film should be banned or destroyed or canceled or whatever. But it's like a piece of history. It's something to be considered in a certain context. So, I mean, if I made it today, it's like, would I? I don't know. There would be something because, like, I saw the Green Inferno, and that was made about 10 years ago, and that was about cannibal tribes. But I mean, it's a work of fiction, and it's like you got to think, oh, you can take it with a grain of salt. But I think just like, I don't know, somebody that doesn't know what the fuck they're doing or whatever, like doesn't know anything about these type of films or might think this is a real thing, I don't know. But I mean, how far can you pander to stupid people? Like
Yeah. I'll say this, dude. This movie reminded me a lot of. Have you guys ever heard of this island? Not an island, but it's this place called the North Sentinel, or the Northern Sentinel. Over I think it's over in like Asia, between like Asia and Europe
Oh,
somewhere.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Where like no one has ever really like gone there. I mean, there's like really old footage of it that you can find on YouTube, but dude, when I first turned this movie on, it reminded me of like that because like I kind of researched that a little bit a couple years ago, and that like the Northern Sentinel is like the stories you hear about that island or that coast are like the same stories. It's basically what Cannibal Holocaust was like, where they like eat each other, they fuck each other. So it's like it's super fucking weird. But yeah, I've been intrigued with that like for a while now because I'm just like no one really has really like stepped on that part of the world and tried to figure out like what the fuck is going on over there. But
Well,
um this movie, man, I of course I would say that the one thing I would probably change with this movie is like the real killings of these animals and stuff
oh
like
yeah,
that. But
God, I can't believe I didn't think of that.
yeah, but at the same time, and not to sound cruel or anything, but I feel like that would kind of take away from the authenticity. What's how the fuck do you say that word? God damn, I'm really bad at these big words.
Authenticity.
Oh yeah, authenticity. I'm really bad. Yeah, I'm really bad at that. But I think it would take away from that. I think it would take away from it being an authentic, type of movie, and authentic, not even like authentic type of movie, but like an authentic process for the movie. Um, just because yes they used from what you said, like they used like pig intestines and stuff like that, so it's still so to make it look even more real because there weren't you didn't have like the big old CGI. You can't just computer generate stuff back in 1980. You know what I mean? Like you kind of had to make everything look real, uh just off of props and stuff like that. So the fact they used real props, the fact they used real killings with the animals and the stuff like that, like this movie was straight up like don't eat while watching this movie. I'll say that. But if there's one thing I would probably change with this movie is maybe just a little more context, especially at the beginning of the movie. Kind of like what Smith said, which is like you kind of like introduced us to one thing, then went to something else, and didn't even finish, kind of processing or like telling us what happened in phase one or in act one, and then going in act two, and then going straight to act three. It's kind of, obviously the transition between the second act and the third act of the movie were good and it made sense, but we're still lost on that first part. Um, that's pretty much what I would change for this movie. Um, I'm surprised you guys have been able to watch this movie more than once. I am shocked because I will probably never watch this movie again. Again, it wasn't a bad movie. I'm not saying that, not by any means, but man, I thought I had a strong stomach, man, because I've seen a lot. But fuck, this movie was just boom, boom, boom. It just never stopped, man. It like continued, like it was crazy. It was crazy. Um, so I do want to know, guys, in terms of before we give our grades and any other stuff, where do you rank Cannibal Holocaust in terms of the horror lore? You know what I mean? There's a library of horror movies. Where do you rank, this movie? Does this movie deserve to be in the Hall of Fame of horror, or is this just a normal cult classic?
Mark?
Whoever wants to start. Whoever wants to start. Sorry.
No, yeah, I just wanted to give Smith a chance because I talk a lot. So, yeah, well, I do think it does deserve a place in some sort of Hall of Fame thing. Uh, I mean, I even looking at the film in and of itself. I mean, of course, you got the found footage aspect of it. So it was innovative that way. The directing and the special effects, the practical effects, really put it up there. I mean, if you have practical effects and ways of editing your footage and taking your shots to the point where people think that the director gets charged with murder because of it, how could you ignore that? So yeah, this is definitely a film that I think should not be forgotten. Not watched by everybody. Because I do not recommend this film to hardly anyone. I mean, I just brought it up. It wasn't like I said, "Hey, Corn, you got to see Cannibal Holocaust."
Got a
I
great horror movie for you.
yeah. I mean, I know people that have seen it, but right now, out of people I know, I don't know if I can even think of someone that I would recommend it for. Like, if somebody's like, "Hey, Facebook or Twitter, what movies should I watch?" It's not going to be Cannibal Holocaust.
You know, if someone asks me, man, I'm not gonna lie. If someone asks me just to troll them, I'll probably tell them, hey, check out Cannibal Holocaust. It's a great movie. It's a great classic movie. You don't know horror. You've never seen a horror movie until you've seen that movie. So I suggest you go home right now and download the movie and watch it. I'll even send you the link. Oh my god, that would be a great prank. Smith, what about you, man?
That wouldn't be a lie though if you said that, because it is. I mean, I don't think there's many movies that can top this. Like
True.
I think I said in a different last week or something that the only thing I could think that's maybe like a bit more graphic is like Human Centipede, maybe.
Oh yeah.
But even that's not. I mean, after you watch that a couple times, it kind of loses what it's about. But yeah, top 10 horror movie classics probably. I'd put this at like number 2, and I don't have an answer for what number 1 is, but I'm sure someone out there knows.
Bold statement. That's a bold statement. Number 2, all-time classic horror movies.
Yeah.
Holy shit. We should probably review more classic horror movies on this channel. That is a bold statement. God damn, Smith. Damn. You know what? I like that though. I like that. We're gonna start reviewing more classic horror movie films on here. Because now I'm kind of interested in what all 3 of our top 10s are. Because now, yeah, that's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one. I think this movie probably does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. If there's, obviously, this imaginary, horror Hall of Fame or like the horror library, like I do believe it should be top 10. To me, no, but I would say that it does have its place in history. So there are movies that would not happen if it weren't for, Cannibal Holocaust. Who's to say that we would still have, the Paranormal Activities? Who would say we would still have Troll Hunter? Who would say that we, even have Blair Witch Project, which at least the original one, which was to me was the only good one. Who's to say we would have those movies if we did not have Cannibal Holocaust? So yes, obviously it did, but there's so many ways I feel like Cannibal Holocaust kind of broke barriers, and again in a good and bad way, because a lot of people horror did get a stigma for a while of how gruesome it was and how gory it was. And not saying that Cannibal Holocaust was the only movie to, obviously it's not the only gory movie out there, but Cannibal Holocaust they put a stamp out there, when this movie came out. Although, obviously I wasn't alive when this movie came, but you know what I mean? Like, but we know the impact that movies like Cannibal Holocaust had on the horror genre. And look, man, I heard for years and years and years about this movie, never watched it, and then finally watched it, and now I see why. Now I see why this had the impact that it did, again, positively and negatively on the horror genre. This movie belongs in history. I already mentioned that from found footage to how gruesome it was, to using real animals and not being afraid to use one, whether we agree or not, they had the balls to do it. So that's 3 reasons, right? 3 huge reasons right there why it belongs in history. This movie shouldn't be banned. I don't believe this movie should be banned.
I don't know how it could be done, but I don't know if I can make a strong argument for it, but I can almost say it should be shown in film studies classes. I don't know how that would probably have to be a very special, film studies class. But Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you probably wouldn't have a job the next day
Right.
if you did that
Exactly. Exactly.
in your
Uh,
class.
yeah. So, like I said, I don't know how it could be done or whatever, but I mean, this is the kind of film that I think could teach film students, directors, just for the way it was shot. I mean, just the way the whole documentary feel that was given to the found footage parts that Diodato was able to recreate so well, and then evoke a certain kind of reaction from the audience. Like I said, I didn't know much about this film into watching other than it was a horror film, and yeah, I was just floored by everything. I just was really at odds with myself, like how was this done? How did they pull this off? How are people not getting killed? you know?
So back in the 80s, during the 80s, because it was already out at this point, at that point, were there, you were what, a teen, right? So like, were there people running around, saying like, hey, hey, have you seen Cannibal Holocaust? Was it like this shunned movie that no one's seen, kind of like how it was with, when I was growing up, like where it was like, oh man, like the worst of the worst of in terms of like, banned movies, Cannibal Holocaust. And there was this other movie, I forget where it came from, somewhere in Russia. There's like there's like two movies you heard of that were like super banned. One was this Russian movie I keep forgetting the name of, and then the other one was Cannibal Holocaust. And then, I just want to know, like, to you at least, was it, growing up, was it like this hush hush movie, like, hey, we don't talk about that movie. We can't see that movie. That's a banned movie. What was it like in the 80s?
Well, I had not heard of this film until the late 90s. And that was only through being a film nerd and having a film nerd friend. My friend Chris, if he's watching, he knows who he is. I think he introduced me to that show, I mean, that movie. And, but I mean, for the 80s, uh, like I used to read Fangoria magazine. I had a weird mom. She used to buy it for me when I was like 10, 11 years old. So I knew about the film Dawn of the Dead. It's about zombies that eat people. And that film was in theaters in the area that I lived in. I live in Toledo. It's not a major city. And especially back 70s, 80s, not every film would come to the city. You would have to go to Detroit or something like that. So, but Dawn of the Dead was unrated, but it was X equivalent in that no one under 17 was admitted. However, when VHS, Betamax, videotape rental places started becoming a thing, and the first chance that I got to pick out the films, I picked out Dawn of the Dead and City of the Living Dead, which was an Italian horror film, and it was pretty extreme. So, but yeah, among horror nerds, I mean, at the time, the 80s had a lot. There was a lot of mainstream films or big films like Friday the 13th, and then eventually Nightmare on Elm Street, and all these things. So, I think these movies were showing up on the shelves, but I didn't even know about it. Cannibal Holocaust, uh, even through Fangoria. So I didn't know about it pretty late. I didn't hear of it. But once I heard of it and then I started sticking my nose around, I just realized what a cult status that it had.
Yeah, because I always knew that it had the cult status, and I'm glad you brought out that cult status. That's a good term. I'm gonna steal that one. But yeah, like I'm glad that I can see how it had the cult status, and that's something that at least I was aware of growing up. But now after actually watching it and seeing, you're like, man, there is no movie like you got some movies that may have adapted the way they did this movie, but man, there's no movie that cuts anywhere close to this movie. And again, Smith, that's why I don't really argue with you ranking this movie at number two in terms of horror classics, because nothing really ranks, nothing comes close to this movie in terms of the how the degree that they went to in order to tell you a story, in order to kind of make you have that goosebump feel, if you per se. So I agree with both of you guys. Shout out to Jaren. He says, "What's up, bros? Dropping by before I leave the family's place." And talking about his Wi-Fi. Shout out to Grandmaster Altus Wizard. Says, "Wow, wow, wee, wow." All right,
Oh man, was that a reference?
I have no idea.
Off of the
Maybe he's singing the theme song from the from Cannibal Holocaust. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, the tape recorder bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that music that the dude was playing the tape recorder. I was like, yeah, I really like that guy's voice. That was great. I would listen to that.
yeah. Grandmaster Altus Wizard says, just watch Snatched again. Is that a horror movie?
No, it's
It says, what is number one and why is it the thing?
Is that the one with Brad Pitt?
No. You're talking about Snatch or the Thing?
It was an action film, wasn't it? Or a crime film?
It was well,
it was 90s.
There was the dog and it ate the diamond or whatever, and kind of like a UK gangster film.
Oh, okay.
So
when did it come out?
Sometime in the 90s. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like something like the Italian Job or something like that, like one of those movies.
It was about, I don't know, it's not too long after Pulp Fiction came out. It was around the time when crime movies, Pulp Fiction kind of set the kind of a crime movie craze off. So it was kind of around at that time. I don't know if it was necessarily
came out 2000.
Oh, okay.
2000, okay.
So just after, yeah. But
because I'm trying to envision like the poster. I'm pretty sure I've seen the poster for Snatch. I just never watched the movie.
So Jared, you're still out there. Are you gonna watch Cannibal Holocaust after seeing our mini? Jared's a regular, I feel like I know him.
I can tell you, he's probably not gonna watch. After hearing the details about that movie, he's probably not gonna watch that movie. Just because all the gore and stuff and everything in it. Grandmaster Altus Wizard says The Thing, number one horror film. Good times, yes. The Thing. Wait. Is The Thing really the number one?
That's his choice, I think.
I would agree with him.
The Thing,
the original Thing,
number one.
Have you seen that,
bro?
The practical effects in it are amazing.
It's probably the only thing on par with Cannibal Holocaust, and the reason it's better is because it's like alien shit. It doesn't look like pig guts. It's like really fucked up shit.
We're talking about the John Carpenter one, like the
one from, the original,
right? The one Kurt Russell,
Keith David.
I remember watching that.
Carter. Oh man, you got to watch it again. Oh, one of my.
It was a good movie. Number one though. Damn, man, y'all are reaching like a motherfucker tonight, bro.
That is definitely in my top 10.
I mean, but hey, movie's subjective though. Movie's very subjective. And yeah, John Carpenter's The Thing, and he says you don't know who's who. Oh, and also he says and microwaved bubble gum. Never heard of that.
Is that a film?
Yeah.
Is he talking about the effects? I don't know.
Yeah, he's probably talking about effects because if that's a movie, I've never heard of that movie.
Yeah, I want to see microwave bubblegum now.
Just because of the name alone.
Yeah. I'm sold.
Hey, how would you guys feel about a Cannibal Holocaust reboot? If they announced it today, what would you think?
It would have to be. Ooh, I don't know, because it would have to be as much as I hate saying. I wouldn't say I hate saying this, but as much as I probably shouldn't like saying this, it would definitely have to be the same way that the original was done, which means you're going to have to make it very, very at least look very authentic, because now the bar is set, right? Once you see those two names together, the bar is set. So now if you come out with, a watered down version of Cannibal Holocaust, would you want to see a watered down version of Cannibal Holocaust?
Well,
I know I
I
wouldn't.
mean, honestly, I think Eli Roth's The Green Inferno is the closest, at least to something that's made, that you can get to a reboot. And I really like that movie. That was, I think it was a great tribute. I really loved the shaman woman with the eye. I know we're kind of off the Cannibal Holocaust, but yeah, there was just a lot of neat things in that movie. And I don't know, it was just kind of fun to watch. And then, of course, I don't know if you got the article I texted you, but apparently there is a video game coming out that's highly influenced by Cannibal Holocaust. I forgot the name. You know what I'm talking about? Did you get that?
I saw your article. Yeah, I look. We have Grand Theft Auto, so I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure Gito Games they have the bypass for that one.
Yeah,
But
what are you gonna do? Like your mission is find a bunch of turtles in the river and slaughter them. Like, yeah.
shout out to Raleigh Braun.
Oh, Raleigh Braun,
says,
a friend of mine.
CH's original U.S. release only played New York City in 1985 and Philadelphia in 1986. The 86 showing was on the same week when David Lynch's Blue Velvet played the area.
Raleigh Braun, he's the guy to talk to. He does a blog of his own called The Scene of Screen 13, and one of his specialties is looking into exploitation films and where they were released. He does one kind of locally where they were released in Toledo and Detroit. Very interesting blog.
Really?
Very good one. Yeah, this guy just he knows his shit.
Shout out to Raleigh, and shout out to Grandmaster Altus Wizard, as well as Jaren, obviously. Grandmaster also says pig guts is fun and stuff, but to grasp the existential horror that is, hey, I'm in the middle of the fucking Arctic and dig up a creature that can assimilate and act like my friends.
Got a point.
I mean, B. Raleigh. He says in a way, this made it one of the last genre. Oh, this may be. I think he meant this may be one of the last of the genre to make it to the States. Cannibal Ferox played the Liberty for weeks. Did he mean to say Ferox or is?
Yeah, it's Cannibal Ferox. I saw that movie yesterday because it's kind of a ripoff of Cannibal Holocaust, but it's a well done movie, all things considered.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that's why I paused. I was like, did he mean to say Ferox or is he talking about Holocaust? But
yeah.
He said it played the Liberty for weeks in 1983. As Make Them Die Slowly was a regular replay in the area.
I believe Make Them Die Slowly. Raleigh, if you're still watching, Make Them Die Slowly. Wasn't that a U.S. title for Cannibal Ferox or some other film? That was an American title, right? Maybe you'll get back.
So there were actual. Okay, all right. So there were actual not reboots, but people actually trying to adapt what they saw in Cannibal Holocaust. So that was a thing.
Yeah, because Cannibal Ferox, I mean, after watching it, I don't know a lot about the background of Cannibal Ferox, but there's definitely real animal killing in there. I think Cannibal Holocaust launched kind of a big craze of cannibal movies, and people were being really competitive to be shocking as they could. So yeah, that can't that's definitely quite a few films came in the wake, including Deodato. Sorry, I think he made at least one more film. He actually made another cannibal film before Holocaust, but then he made another one in '85. That was I mean, he made a lot of movies, but there was another cannibal film that he made. But there's a lot. You can go on Wikipedia and there's a whole page.
And check out his filmography. Yeah, I gotta check out this guy's filmography because this guy seems kind of sketchy, man. I don't know. Maybe some of these murder claims he's getting might be relevant. Grandmaster. So this is the movie that I was talking about, the Russian movie. He says, also check out Serbian Film was the other movie that I heard about growing up. Oh,
Okay,
not
great.
growing up, but I heard about it at least like around like high school time. Um, yeah, that's I don't know, man. I don't know. After watching Cannibal Holocaust, I'm like, man, I don't know about these gritty. Ah,
Yeah, I
but
think
we'll see. Riley Bronkowski says, yeah, Aquarius released it under that title. The Liberty was on the Deuce.
All right, he's talking about the what was it called? Let Them Die, Make Them Die Slowly was an alternate title. Yeah, and the Liberty and the Deuce are cinema film. Like, I don't know if those are grindhouses or what, but Raleigh would know.
So Mark, you actually met the director of
Well,
Cannibal Holocaust.
I don't know if you could say I met him. I was at a convention where he sat on a Cannibal Holocaust film panel. So I at least saw him live.
Did he at least what were his thoughts on, obviously, was he still proud of his work, or was he like, look, I've gotten enough shit from making this movie and
No,
what was all the legal troubles and everything else, was all of that worth it to him, or was he like, look, I'm glad you guys like it, but I'm not really fucking with it, years
yeah,
later.
he regrets making the film. He actually wishes that he never made it. And
Wow,
yeah,
really?
yeah. He just, I mean, he just talked about how determined he was to make a film. He was a lot younger and competitive, and just, I mean, he really, was shitty to a lot of people, and of course there was the animal killing. So yeah, ultimately, he wouldn't have made it, if he regrets making it.
Damn, that's
Mm,
crazy.
yeah.
That's crazy to think that like a movie of that stature, and yeah, again, it's a fucked up movie, but a movie of that stature, nonetheless, the person who created it, the mind behind it, regrets making it. Damn, that's crazy. That's crazy. Because I would have thought that, obviously, if anything, he would have been mad about the legal trouble and regretted because of the legal trouble. But the fact that he's saying, hey, look, I treated people shitty, the animal shit, everything else, at the end of the day, it wasn't worth it. Um, Although I will say I do believe it was worth it, even though it is a movie that I probably would not be able to sit through the entire in its entirety ever again. But unless I'm like super duper fucked up. But which I tried to get today when I was watching it. I got close. But at the end of the day, this is a movie that helped create history, that it has its own page in history, and it will never be changed ever again. Um so now I'm gonna ask you guys, and this is gonna be tough because I know this isn't a movie where we're like Cannibal Holocaust, but it's like, look, we fuck with the movie, So I'm gonna ask you guys for your grade. What grade you guys would give this movie and why? And Smith, I'm gonna start with you.
I don't think it's that hard for me. I would give it a solid A.
And why?
Well, I mean, pretty much everything we discussed so far. I mean, it's a staple. It's probably one of the best at what it does, best in horror, thriller too, I guess, if you want to consider it that. The lines on that are still kind of blurred. Yeah, why you guys would give it something less than that? I think it deserves that at least. Like, come on.
I think I'm in agreement with you. I would give it an A as well, and probably to repeat myself, I think that the directing was pretty good in the sense of just the way they could pull it off with the budget and the conditions they were under, and just the ideas that were behind it. Diodato was influenced when, I guess he says that one day he was watching something his son was watching on the news, and he was noticing how violence was what the journalist kept focusing on, and he wondered if some of those things weren't staged, and then that just pretty much went from there. So I think it was making it definitely makes a statement. I don't know if you could consider it satirical, but it's definitely some kind of commentary. So I think there is some relevance to the film, and again, to be able to look on that, I think it's an important film as well, for many reasons. Not even just the social context and all of that stuff, but the artistic reasons as well. I mean, probably some of the weakest things artistically in the film was maybe some of the acting, but but in other ways, it was some the people that really stood out did a good job. In fact, Miguel stands out, and Chaco, the guide, things like that. So yeah, I give it an A as well.
So I'm gonna play bad cop. I'm gonna play bad cop. It's close. I'm gonna get this movie an A minus, and I'm gonna get this movie an A minus because you see the dedication, you see the hard work that they put into this movie. You see the barriers that they broke in terms of this is what we're allowed to do, this is what we're not allowed to do, and this dude said, "I don't give a shit. I'm just gonna make my fucking movie, no matter whether you guys like it or not. I'm gonna make it how I want to fucking make it." So you got to respect that. You got to respect the hard work. You got to respect the fact that at the end of the day, this dude made a masterpiece. I know he regrets it. If I made a movie like that and went through the shit that he went through, especially legally, and then all the other stuff, I would probably regret them making a movie as well later on in life. But the fact is, the movie was made, and honestly, you have to respect how great in terms of, and I'm not saying in terms of storytelling, but how great this movie is in terms of, it's like it's a big middle finger, pretty much, to what the society norms are in terms of how you should have a horror movie and what a horror movie is consisted of, but not in a way that where we do it today, where it's like, oh, let's make a horror movie and it's not really anything scary about the movie. There were some things in this movie where it was like, it wasn't necessarily like you're like jumping or anything like that, or where it's like, oh, what's gonna happen, but to where it's like, wow, I would not want to be in that situation right now. I really would hate to be on that island right now with two other people and dudes getting their dicks chopped off. Like, I'm good on that. Like, I'm fine. Like, I enjoy having that mindset when watching a movie like that. And at the end of the day, I'm gonna have to get this movie an A minus. Again, the only things I would fix with it is just like maybe it was a little too authentic. But again, when you're making your own movie, I mean, who's to say whether it's too authentic or not authentic at all? You know what I mean? Like maybe it was a little too real, but at least made to look a little too real. But again, one could argue that's not necessarily a bad thing either. I think that's literally the only part I'm really conflicted on in terms of this movie. Everything else was done really well. And you could tell that it was not that it was, I wouldn't say it was really well thought out, but at least the process of what the next scene was going to be was really thought out. Of their way of actually like getting you ready for this climactical scene of something bad is going to happen. And just because it happened so much in the movie, you should already be ready. You should already be ready for the next scene, because especially once you're like 30 minutes in, like Smith, you said you've seen this movie, 3 or 4 times, at least the first 30 minutes, about 3 times. Like you already know after that first 20 minutes, it's go, 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 go. And for a movie like that, it has to be that way. It has to be that way. Grandmaster says slow burn and makes you very uncomfortable. And then he also goes on to say, how many films can you say that you've seen will drive you to sit on the edge of your chair and cringe? Ooh, that's a good question. Mark, you want to be the first to answer that one? I'll leave the question up.
Oh, well, cringe, that, because I might be able to think of movies that could drive me to the edge of my seat more than cringe. What made me cringe the most about Cannibal Holocaust was the real animal killings. But and of course, like John Carpenter's The Thing comes to mind. But what I really liked about Cannibal Holocaust too was it was dark. That it did have a darkness. Every horror film is dark to an extent, but Cannibal Holocaust definitely brought the darkness as a strong theme throughout. You know,
Yeah. Not Mark. Smith. What about you? How many films can you say that you've seen that will actually like drive you to sit on the edge of your seat?
I can think of probably three, and Cannibal Holocaust is one of them. You wanted to say Hannibal Holocaust, but yeah. So The Thing, and then what's that movie with the giant spider? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, eight-legged freaks.
I think something. It's like a giant tarantula. It eats the grandmother. That movie fucks me up. Can't watch that. But I would
hate
take
spiders.
Cannibal. I would take Cannibal Holocaust over that.
You know what movies that make me cringe? That make me are 80s teen romance comedies. Ugh.
Oh my god.
Just because I've kind of been those guys like, oh, the guy has a crush and blah blah, and it's just like, oh gosh, no, please, like, yeah. So that makes me cringe, but they don't get me on the edge of my seat, But yeah.
So no 16 candles for you?
Yeah. I don't like, with 16 candles. See, it's usually I start cringing when it's about a guy that has a crush on a woman and he thinks he would be a better guy than the guy she's really with and all of that stuff. And, he thinks he's a nice guy, but he's being her friend and just pretending to be. It's like, well, that really makes you an asshole when you do that. So, because I did that a lot, and that's something I regret and embarrassed by. Even though I'm publicly stating it now, but definitely makes me cringe.
The last movie that I actually legit was sitting at the edge of my seat, horror movie that I actually was legit sitting at the edge of my seat, and it was the first time in years that it happened, was, and you guys would be surprised with me saying this, but The Strangers 2, the sequel to The Strangers, is called, I think, The Strangers Pray at Night. It came out, I want to say, about 2 or 3 years ago, and I saw it in theaters. Holy shit, that movie was, even to me, honestly, better than the first one. I don't know if you guys ever saw the original Strangers, but man, that second one done really well. Like it is legit creepy. It is legit scary. It is, you got one family hunting down a family with masks on, hunting down another family, like in the middle of fucking nowhere in like a trailer park. Like it doesn't get any better than that. That was the last time I legit like sat the edge of my seat, was like, really like cringe. And this movie did it for me as well. Hannibal Holocaust. I said Hannibal Holocaust. God damn it. Hannibal Holocaust. It did that for me as well. And I would say surprisingly, but no, it didn't surprise me at all. That because from the stuff that I heard about this movie, I was going in. That's why I put it off for so long. I was like, man, do I watch Cannibal Holocaust tonight? I'm like, no, I'll watch it tomorrow. No, I'll watch it tomorrow. And then I was like, fuck it. I'm going to set a date for us to review it so I can finally watch this fucking movie. And I did it today, and I was like, man.
Well, if we want to talk about movies that really scared us, I think that what had a profound effect on me were movies like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or The Hills That Have Eyes, where the theme of the film is about, city folk going out to the country or the wilderness or whatever, and, being terrorized by, cannibals in that case. And to this day, I've been a city boy all my life. I've never lived even, in a suburb. I've always lived in the main city. I've lived in Las Vegas, Columbus, Cleveland, now Toledo. So anytime I'm out somewhere far, a field from the city, I'm unnerved by it. And I think those kind of films really had an effect on me, just the unknown. And it's just like, yeah, I'm so used to being able to, it's like I live in a neighborhood that some people consider dangerous, but I'm like, yeah, but at least there's a house somewhere nearby I could run to, or a store or something. But being out in the middle of nowhere where there's nothing, and mind you, I used to travel a lot, and we didn't have cell phones back then. So when you broke down, you had to find a fucking payphone, and that was tough.
Oh, yeah, I think that's one of the lost things too with movies nowadays is everybody has a cell phone now. So like in the movies, it's like, oh, your cell phone connection is lost. But how many people actually really do lose connection when they're in the, like, it's it's at this point it's pretty hard to lose connection, unless Smith. You may know just like like doing like FTXs, like when we go out into the field for like a week at a time, we might lose connection. But obviously we have like comms and other stuff set up. But yeah, like it's. Let me tell you something, man. These movies, these movies are a treasure because one, nothing's being made like this anymore. Um, I don't blame people for not wanting movies like this to be made anymore, but at the same time, I know that there's people like Rob Zombie that would be chomping at the bit to make another movie like this. You know, like you said, Eli Roth. He did Green Inferno. This was Green Inferno was probably as close as you could get to a Cannibal Holocaust. Um, and as well as that abomination of Halloween 2 that Rob Zombie did would probably be as close as you had Michael Myers sitting there eating dogs and shit. So it so at the end of the day, we're not going to get another Cannibal Holocaust. And honestly, I'm actually kind of glad we're not going to get another one because at least I actually like this this Cannibal Holocaust. You know, who's to say if they made another one, I probably wouldn't like it. Or there's a possibility of us not liking it. I'm not saying I just wouldn't like it, but I just don't like facing that possibility of. That's why I'm so hesitant when it comes to sequels in general and remakes and reboots. But we talked about that last week or the week before. Like that. You make a really good horror movie and you kind of leave it alone. And I know that the director of this movie, he went on to make. You said one more cannibal movie, right? Was it successful? Do you know?
I don't know how well it did. I know I probably didn't do too well in the States if it was ever released at all, because I tried to find it and I can't find it streaming anywhere. And a lot of the videos and DVDs are either out of print and have really high collector's prices on them. So yeah, it's hard to say off the top of my head. I don't know how successful it was, but I suspect not very. Like it's probably just a real underground film.
Okay. Because I was about to say, I was like, if he made another cannibal movie and maybe it was more successful than this one, it might have, kind of moved the needle a little bit. But look, man, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Cannibal Holocaust is not broken; it's just banned. So, but anything else you guys have to say about Cannibal Holocaust?
Well, I just think that it's the kind of movie, though, that there's it's a YouTube channel and podcast channel called Wisecrack, run by a bunch of very academic type people that have degrees in philosophy and everything like that. And this is the kind of film you could talk about like that, aside from the shock value, but you could see symbolism in it, like, the symbol of the West and civilized society and how it encroaches upon, what could be left of the wild. I mean, even in the Green Inferno, Eli Roth definitely referenced the destruction of the rainforest and things like that, and how civilization is encroaching upon that so much more now. Like even 30 years later, like with the Green, and then now. So it's funny how it would make a very different film no matter what, but definitely interesting to pick apart in that manner.
Facts. Mega facts. I didn't even think about that now that you mention it. Smith, you got anything else to say about Cannibal Holocaust?
Well, it definitely does, or you could look at it in a way where it touches a lot of topics like colonization in the West, or even like capitalism with them wanting to turn it into a film to make a profit. But at the same time, it's not in your face about any of that. Like you can watch it for what it is, and what you make of it is entirely up to you. And it does a good job at that. So,
I have a question in terms of that too. Like, if I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm just going to ask it anyways. But do you guys know who is it up to? If let's say 4 random dudes want to go, or dudettes want to go to a remote country or island, right? And want to film the way people, um, what's the word for it? Like the way people live. I was trying to find something like in terms of culture, but like they want to film the culture of like a remote island or something like that. But they want to bring the film back to the States. Who is it up to whether they release that, whether they can release that footage or not? Is it up to the States, or is it up to the place that they go to film it?
Well, if we're talking about Channel Island, or what? No, what is it called? The one you mentioned earlier.
Oh, the Northern Sentinel.
Yeah, the Northern Sentinel.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's under the jurisdiction of India, and the Indian government said no one can go there. So if they could let you go there, I guess I don't think the states would have anything to do with you releasing the footage there. You put it on YouTube, they can't do anything.
Oh, yeah, because I thought about that. I was like, what if somebody actually like, because of course it's 2021, so people are doing all kinds of shit now. So I was just thinking to myself like, what if somebody actually did go to like a remote island, and maybe not the Northern Sentinel, because it's pretty hard to even make it there, let alone survive once you actually get there. Again, if you got time to look at that, I would recommend looking into the North. It's pretty interesting.
Is that the island where the Christian missionary went to like about 2 years ago and got killed before he even touched land on the island?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I think that's funny. I don't like it. Christian missionary is like, that's what you get, buddy. Shove your stupid religion down people's throats. So that's just me. Don't blame Cornersmith. I don't know the religious views, but I don't give a fuck. I'm an atheist.
Grandmaster Altus Wizard says, "Let me tell you all about woods." Oh yeah, I know a lot about the woods. Yeah. He said, okay, I see what he's doing. He says, "I was born into it, molded by it."
Hey, Corn. He's actually in the army right now.
Oh really?
That guy, yeah.
Okay, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. Yeah, man. Tell him look up Shenandoah Valley, Virginia. That's some sketchy areas in terms of the woods over there, man. Up there in VA. But look, man, it's been great chatting about Cannibal Holocaust. I'm sure this won't be the last time we mention Cannibal Holocaust, especially after it's like fresh in our minds now. Because to me, this did set a certain kind of bar in terms of horror for me, in terms of my horror catalog. It was movies like this where I haven't really touched on or really dove into in terms of different subgenres of horror. But now again, I don't plan on watching this movie again anytime soon. But this does kind of let me open up my and broaden my spectrum in terms of the horror catalog and horror movies that I watch. But before we go, I do want to mention to you all, at some point this week, we're going to decide what night we're going to do the watch along. But a watch along is coming soon. Make sure you guys continue voting. We just finished the first round last night. Make sure you guys head over to Half-Ass Pod Official on Instagram to vote in the stories. I will be putting up the second round either tonight or tomorrow in the morning, but it will be up at least by this time tomorrow. So make sure you guys go in and vote. Voting is pretty much done from last night. Went ahead and posted the results. So now we're down to movies. I think one of them was a tie, so we're still down to technically 5. But yes, we will be doing a watch along. Make sure you guys head over to Instagram and vote. Mark, go ahead and give us your plugs.
All right, thank you very much, Corin. The main place to find me is the WalterPaisleyCafe.com. I do reviews and hopefully other things, but I've been mostly doing reviews. I do a lot of movies that people haven't heard of, but if you want to look for something more mainstream, I'm starting to do Star Wars films. Most recently, I just did The Phantom Menace, and I plan to go along the Star Wars films and TV shows in consecutive order, not by release, but according to the story. So I just found a list, Phantom Menace, Clone Wars, all that stuff. And I'm just going to be putting in some of those reviews in the future, but I'm mixing it up with the more obscure stuff because I like that stuff. That's more my thing. So you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Either look for the Walter Paisley Cafe or Walt Paisley Cafe, things like that. It should be too hard to find me also as Mark Plaid. I don't think there are any other Mark Plaids out there, but I'm the original, I'm the authentic one.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Walter Paisley Cafe, as well as Spadal. So make sure you guys go over there, head over there, and support this man. He's very talented, man. Very creative, man. He's very hardworking as well. Doing great things over there, Mark. And also, the links will be here in the description later tonight because I got to get those links and put them in the description. But in the meantime, he's Mark. He's Smith. I am me. This is Half-Ass Pod, and this was your Cannibal Holocaust movie review. And we are OU.